Hello everyone, this is Group F, and I am Fulton. My Chinese name is Zhu Zhizhou. This is the brief content of our presentation today. The first part is a brief introduction to our Group F, and the second part is the preparation we have made for this research. The third part is the research methodology, and the last part is the findings and conclusion. Firstly, we have sure designed a questionnaire. It's a very simple and brief one. As you can see in these pictures, there are 13 basic questions and 10 of them are multiple choices. And as we have analyzed the statistics, and to finish one questionnaire, maybe 2 minutes would be normally spent. You can see some details of our questionnaire. And firstly, we handed out our papers to some classmates attending the FAST1000 class. And after choosing the library as the site where we then handed out the questionnaires, we went to the library and we gave the questionnaire to a random sample of Polyu students and from year 1 to master. After collecting the questionnaires, we included some invalid questionnaires. There were about 10 pieces of questionnaires which seemed very invalid, and the overall sample was 56% men and 44% women with an average age of 19. This is the picture about the questionnaire we have collected.
In my part, I'm going to introduce the method we used in our survey. What I'd like to mention first is how we collect samples. It is a random sampling that we applied at the sample collecting stage. In statistics, quality assurance, and survey methodology, sampling is a section of a subset, a statistic sample of individuals from within a statistical population to estimate characteristics of the whole population. And the picture in this slide shows how this function works. After finishing collection, we use some basic math and computer skills with the assist of several professional websites to analyze them. As you can see in these slides, we draw several charts including bar charts, radar graph, line graphs, etc. Finish the comparison, we eventually choose bar chart to present our outcomes. A bar chart or bar graph is a chart or graph that presents categorical data with rectangular bars with height or length proportional to the values that they represent. And you can also see a sample picture in these slides. We also applied what we have learned in high school, the chi-square test. In our presentation, we mainly used the two-dimensional one. Here is the formula, and I will left you some time to recall the related knowledge and what you have learned. In this case, an observation consists of the value of two outcomes, and the new hypothesis is that the occurrence of this outcome is statistically independent. It is just what we used and we want to apply. Each observation is allocated to one cell of two-dimensional array of cells, called a contingency table, according to the values of the two outcomes. And this also a sample table in these slides. Here is the dimension. You can put the x1, x2, y1, y2 into this chart, and after calculating, you'll see the A, B, C, D, and use the latest formula to calculate it. For the higher dimensional function, you can check this table and choose which statistic match your demand. Determine the degree of the freedom df of that statistic. For test of independence, that is what we used in our presentation. df equal to the rows minus 1 plus columns minus 1, where in this case, rows corresponds to the number of categories in one variable and columns correspond to the number of categories in the second variable. You can choose the degree of freedom just represent that the different color line. If you can find the precise number of states is the better, but if you cannot, you can use the table in this slide. You can compare with the calculation that this table mentioned with what you have calculated in your own works. If your words is between which two parts, that means you have the how much percentage that to ensure you're correct. After comparing the data table, we should analyze the relationship between screen time and sleep time, sport time and sleep time, game time and maybe the sleep time. And the other team member will analyze them in details. Here is all my presentation.
While bringing great convenience to people's life, electronic devices may also cause a serious adverse effect on people's sleep condition. What I am going to talk about is the relationship between game time and sleep time. Nowadays, most of university students have mobile phones, which contribute to the sleep time to a certain degree. There is the statistic between sleep time and game time that we collected from Polyu students, and we can find that, first, nobody sleeps over 10 hours. The majority of students' game playing time is between 0 to 112 minutes. Then the student who game playing time between 112 minutes to 118 minutes had the sleep time between 8 to 10 hours. Finally, the student who play game over 118 minutes sleep less than 8 hours. So here is the conclusion that we conclude from the graph. First, when game playing time is between 0 to half an hour, sleeping time is not affected. Second, sleep time is randomly distributed between 30 to 180 minutes of game playing time. Finally, when game playing time over 180 minutes, we can find that sleep time decreased significantly. So we can conclude that more game time contributes to less sleep time, while long game playing time is with less sleeping time. The first reason is screen time affects sleeping time. Firstly, light theory believes that the light emitted by electronic device screens will interfere with melatonin secretion and circadian rhythms, thereby delaying the time to fall asleep and affecting sleep. Secondly, from the theory of electromagnetic radiation, it believes that the electromagnetic radiation emitted by electronic devices change the structure of sleeping, delaying the release of melatonin, thereby affecting sleep quality. In terms of melatonin, it can shorten the time of waking up and falling asleep and improve the quality of sleep. When it comes to the second reason why long game playing time is with less sleeping time, it's taught us sleep time affects screen time. First, is suggesting that electronic media use is a result of sleep problems rather than a cause. Second, people are likely to use electronic devices as a response to sleep problems. Sleep problems of college students lead to the use of electronic devices, and many even lead to SNS dependence and iPod dependence.
Hello everyone, I'm Roy from Group F. In my part of the present, personally I want to look into something interesting and not that tedious. As my topic says, I will use the statistics collected from Polyu students to tell you how you can more likely to find a boyfriend or girlfriend. There may be a traditional belief that being more sportive is more attractive to opposite sex, and a computer game lover is less attractive. However, some of these views are proved and some are disproved in this investigation. Before the whole thing starts, I would like to introduce the theory which the whole research based on, chi-square test. To illustrate the very complicated theory in a precise way, the chi-square test is used to determine whether there is a significant difference between the expected frequencies and the observed frequencies in one or more categories, which means it can determine whether a factor can influence the outcome of another factor. It can solve the question like that to determine how strong the relationship between smoking and getting lung cancer. This is a criterion of the index that we get from the formula mentioned before. We can see in that table, this row is the value of k. That row is the possibility that the observed index is larger than k. So for example, if the observed index that we calculated from the formula mentioned before is larger than 2.706 and smaller than 3.841, then we can see the possibility that two factors we observed has a strong relationship is about 1 minus 0.1 is about 90%. And 95% is between 90% and 95%. The following is the statistics of the game time and the relationship status. A here means available, and O here means occupied. This is a table we formulated from the last graph. We can say the formula is here, and that value is A, that value is B, that value is C, and that value is D. Then we can calculate it. The index is 0.4. According to that criteria, 0.4 is smaller than 0.455. So we can see the relationship between status and game time is not that obvious. Here is the statistics of self-supplement time and status. We can formulate a similar table here, and the index we calculated is 1.28. According to the criterion before, there is about larger than 90% possibility that the self-supplement time is related to the emotional status. So in conclusion, there is no significant relationship between game time and the relationship status. The dependency between self-supplement and the relationship status is relatively strong. That's all my part of the present. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is David. I'm going to talk about the relationship between sports time and sleep time. Since university students have a lot of free time, how to manage it is an important issue. What I'm going to talk about are sports time and sleep time, which I think are very important if students want to live a healthy life. Certainly, both sport and sleep contribute to a healthy life. However, the relationship between these two is not obvious. So I want to use a more theoretical way to see whether they have a close relationship. This figure shows the relationship between sport time and sleep time. We get some basic information such as students sleep for less than 6 hours, often sports for less than 30 minutes. If we separate the sport time into less than 30 minutes and more than 30 minutes, and separate sleep time into less than 6 hours and more than 6 hours, we can obtain this square. By using chi-square test, we obtain the x power of 2 is larger than 20. We find that 20.87 is larger than the biggest number in the figure. Yet maybe our sample size is small and it results in some error. That means sleep time and sports time have a very close relationship, and I will try to give an explanation on it. In my opinion, students who have enough sports time are likely to feel a little tired at sleep time, rather than feeling too excited or vigorous to sleep. They sleep earlier, but their wake-up time are similar with those sports less. Some studies show that appropriate sports time can help you sleep better. That's why sleep time and sports time have a close relationship, and we verify these studies. Also, we can conclude that appropriate sports time can lead to a healthier life.